Hi! For those of you that don't know me, my name is Shelly Bonus, and I am an Elite Green presenter with Younique. I have been with Younique now for 3.5 years and have loved over the time how I have learned so many new things with doing my makeup and different techniques. So today I'm excited to spend some time with you to show you how to do 2 different eye looks with this gorgeous neutral palette. So before I tell you too much about this palette, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to put some eye primer on my eyes. As a little tip, I always recommend using a primer on your eyes because what a primer does is this primer is water resistant and it creates a nice smooth base over your eyes that keeps your shadows from creasing. It helps the colors wear bolder and come out better, and it helps them last longer throughout the day. So I always recommend using an eye primer with any eyeshadows that you're using, and anytime you're using a primer, you want to put it on first and you want it to be able to sit for 3 to 5 minutes before you go ahead and start applying your makeup over top of it. So that's why I went ahead and put that on first. And so today, the palette that we're going to be working with is, our quads are amazing because you can customize and choose the colors however you would like. Okay, and the colors that I have in this palette are Optimistic, Astute, Antsy, and Marvelous. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to create 2 different eyeshadow looks with this palette, but in all reality there are more looks that you could create with it as well. What's also nice about this palette, this color palette, a little tip is that depending on your hair color, you can use these to do your eyebrows with. So this darker brown color, depending on the color of your hair, you could take a liner sided brush, or if you have a brow brush that has an angled end on it, you could use your brow brush in one of these 2 colors to do your brows with. Okay, so that's a little tip. I like making things go as far as they can, using them for as many different things. So you may find that this doesn't just serve as an eyeshadow palette for you, you are able to do your brows with it as well and use these colors to line your eyes with. One other thing that you may be able to do is you may be able to use these colors to do some contouring on your cheeks, depending on your skin coloring. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out doing the one eye look on this side. We'll complete this eye first, going through step by step, and then we'll move over to doing a halo smoky eye on this side. Okay, so the first thing that I like to do after I do my eyebrows is I like to take a nice light color, which Optimistic is perfect for, and I like to highlight under my brows to give a brow lift. And because I'm going to be doing that on both sides, regardless of the eyeshadow look that I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take the Optimistic and do it underneath of both brows right now. Okay. I always gently tap my brush, and I'm using the Deluxe brush right now. I like to tap it or blow it, and then I lightly, and excuse me if you see me looking down because what I'm doing is I'm using a mirror down here. I press. Anytime you're applying your shadows, you want to start out pressing them, not rubbing them. That helps get them applied so that later on you can do some blending with them, but it helps get the color down. So you can see how I'm just getting a nice light highlight under my brows. Okay. So what I'm going to be using next on my right eye is I'm going to be using this color called Astute as my transition shade. A transition shade is one that you apply above your crease line, just underneath where I did under my brows. This helps as you apply your other colors to give them a way to kind of pull together and blend together. So that is what a transition shade is. So what I have here is I have a blending brush. It's really nice and loose and fluffy because the point of a transition color is not to get a dark, dense color down, but just get a light base in that area. So it's a nice, light, fluffy brush that I'm going to hold further back. The way you hold your brushes makes a difference in how your colors apply. Okay? If you were to be holding your brush closer, that would be for a more focused application, a more dense application, and the transition shade is going to be wider and lighter, so we want a loose application of it. So what I do is I take my blending brush and I just kind of tap it down into my Astute 2 times. And again, I tap it or I blow it off. And then what I do is I start on the outside of my eye and I just kind of start in a circular motion going across. And you can see that as I do that, you can just see a hint of color come across my eye, and then I can go in a windshield wiper motion. You always want to start out with less, and then once you get this applied, you can take a look at your eye and you can see, do you have a nice even application across of the transition? If there's any areas that don't look like they're even, you could try a little more blending. You may find that you want just a little more shadow on your brush, and you may want to just go back over and get a little more on there. Okay, so you see that's a nice, loose, light application just to get that light transition down. So our first step was to highlight under the brow. Then we did our transition shade. Okay, so for this eye look, what we are going to do next is I am going to be taking my Optimistic here and I'm going to be applying it to the inner part of my lid. Just about, not just under halfway out. Okay, I am going to use my shader brush for that. And again, as I apply it, after I get the shadow on my brush, I'm simply going to be pressing it down onto that part of my lid. Okay, I'm not going to be brushing it or sweeping it. So I'm going to go ahead and tap my brush into my Optimistic. Blow it off or tap it off, but you see that I have some Optimistic on there. And I go ahead and I just press it down onto that inner part of my eye. Now, because you want to keep the inner part of your eye lighter, something else that I can do at this point is get a little more Optimistic on my brush, and I can actually bring it into the corner of my eye to keep it light and bright. So you see I've got the Optimistic right there and just into the inner corner of my eye. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other side of the same brush and I'm going to be using my Antsy color. It has a little bit of a shimmer to it. Okay, I'm going to tap my shadow brush into the Antsy, and I'm going to be using the Antsy to finish out the rest of my eyelid. And I'm going to keep it down up to my crease on the eyelid, but not into the crease and above. So just on the eyelid, I press in my Antsy. Okay, so now what you see is I lightened under my brow, I did my transition shade with the Astute, then I did the inner portion of my eye with Optimistic and then took some Antsy and pressed it down. So you see you're getting different layers and depth of color at this point. Very subtle, very neutral, very pretty. And you can see that with that, my blue eyes are starting to pop. So I'm just going to do a little check on my color here and see if I feel like I want a little bit more pressed on. And at this point, I think I'm good. So now this is where we're going to start working with our crease area. When you're working in the crease area of your eye, the smaller of the brush that you have, you see how this is really small, pointed, the bristles are more dense. It allows you to really focus in that crease area more. And you're going to see my hand move up closer to the end of that as I start applying my crease shade. Your crease is going to be your darkest color, okay, for this look. So I go ahead and I make sure I tap it in and I get a pretty decent amount of my dark color, but at the same time, again, I blow it off, tap it off, whatever works for you. And now I'm going to focus on just pressing it into that crease area and into the V area, okay? And then once I get it pressed in, I'm going to start using my crease brush, sort of in a windshield wiper motion with it, okay? Go ahead and I press in right into that crease area. You can see a little bit of the darker color. And then now I'm going to start to kind of brush it, kind of almost like you're coloring. Now I've started with less just to kind of get a crease in there. And once I get that crease in there a little bit, I can decide to press in and go with a little bit more. At this point, the colors are going to look separate, and the focus is to get the colors down onto your eye. Then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing just a little bit of blending, because the blending is what softens and brings it together. And then you can go back and you can touch up with your colors where you feel like you need more. So I'm just really focusing on that crease area. And I go in part way, and as I work with my crease, I can go across a little bit more till you get your crease about where it meets that lighter color, the Optimistic. And that's where you're going to kind of stop with it. Okay, so now what I do is I take my blending brush and we're going to blend all of your eye. So again, I'm holding the brush further back because this is going to be a light, fluffy motion. And it just softens and blends everything together so that you can see that it just kind of brings your eye look together. Now, while you're doing this, you may find that your color comes down a little bit. And this is where Q-tips are great, because Q-tips pick up any of that fallout, and all you do is you just go like this and you kind of go at an angular motion up, and it picks that up so that you have a nice clean looking eye. And look at how that eye is coming together. You see how my blue is popping in my eyes? Okay, so now what I do after I've done that blending is I go back and I take a look at my colors and I see, are they even? Do I feel like I need a little bit more of anything to just kind of finish off the eye? And what I'm going to do is I see just a little area right here that it might be a little bit lighter, so I'm going to take a little bit more of my dark brown color and I'm just going to kind of press and sweep it in to even it out. Okay. I'm going to take my shader brush and I'm tapping it into my ANSI, and I'm just pressing in a little more ANSI right here just to kind of finish off. It just kind of brings everything together. And then I will go back to my Optimistic, the lightest color, and I will go under my brow, and I come down the inner part of my eye at this point to keep it light. And remember, we pressed some Optimistic right in that inner corner, just like that. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to some eyeliner to bring the eye together. Once you do your eyeliner and then your mascara, it just brings the whole eye together and finishes out the look. So I am going to go ahead and I am going to use a black pencil liner. This is my Perfect. I'm going to sharpen it just a little bit on the top of my eye. When I apply my eyeliner, I like it to come down into my lash line as much as possible, because again, it just brings everything together. So I always start on the outer part of my eye and I work my way in, and then I'll go to the inner corner of my eye and I'll work my way back towards the center to bring my liner together. Now if I wanted, I could do the same eyeliner on the bottom, but something else you can do is you can use your palette to do a shadow liner. So I am going to take my liner end of my liner shader brush, and I am going to tap it into the darkest brown right here, and I'm going to use that to just line from here in towards the center of my eye about halfway. So I just tap my brush down into the dark brown, and this just gives you a little softer, smokier look by using the shadow on the bottom for a liner instead of the pencil. So it really just depends on what you're wanting to go for with your look. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my Optimistic and take it and sweep it down towards the center of my eye. And that just kind of brightens, and it comes down to that where I have the dark brown liner. Okay, so we've completed the first side with our first look with the shadows. And we will go ahead and we will finish the eye with our Epic One Step Mascara. I'm going to set this down here. I start back closer to my eye and I just slowly get a good smooth application of my Epic out towards the ends of my lashes. And then I'm also going to come down the top, sweep down the top. Now the Epic mascara is buildable, so you could let this dry and you could then do a second application if you wanted. If you wanted more volume, if you wanted more length, and you could just work with it a little bit. Okay, so let me find my tube here. I just dipped the wand in one more time. And I'm doing a second application. And this mascara goes on really smooth, and it also curls your lashes up as you're applying it. So it's really nice. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my bottom lashes. And there you have it. There's our first eye look with our neutral palette. Coming closer. So again, what I did was I did the optimistic under my brow. I used the astute for a transition shade with my blending brush, the optimistic on the inner portion of my eye, and then the antsy mid-eyelid out before going to the darkest brown color in your palette and pressing it in and doing your V and your crease area for this look. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the other side, and the look that we're going to do on this side is called a halo smoky eye. And this is really fun because while you would traditionally think of a regular smoky eye as being really dark, there's some darkness to this eye, but because it's a halo smoky eye, you also have some brightness that kind of opens up your eyes as well. Okay, so how we're going to do that, again, we started out by highlighting under our brow with the optimistic, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my crease brush and I'm going to be using the dark brown color, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be applying it to the inner part of my eyelid and the outer part of the eyelid, as well as over my crease. That's going to create the halo area, okay? But before I do that, again, we're going to start with our transition shade, the astute, with our blending brush. Just kind of tap it in, tap it off, and now again, remember, above your crease area, you're going to sweep it across just to start to give your eye that light base application of color that's going to bring everything together as you're building your look. Okay? So the circular motion and then the back and forth. Again, further back, it's a loose, fluffy feel to it. And now we have our transition shade, our astute. So I'll take my crease brush and tap it into my darker brown color. And I'm going to start working on the inner part, the inner corner of my eye, pressing in the dark brown. Okay, so just the inner part, and I'm going to now go back and get a little bit more of that color. And we're going to do the outer part of my eye. Again, just pressing it on the lid, getting the color down there. So we're going to be leaving this center area open because that's what's going to become our halo of our eye. Okay, so then I'm going to go back and tap some more of my dark brown onto my crease brush, and I'm going to go just above, and I'm going to press in a crease area across my eye. And you see I'm still left with this center part of my eye open. And now what we are going to do is we're going to take our shader brush, and again we're going to tap it into the lightest color, the optimistic, and that's what we're going to press down into the center area of the eye. You see that halo effect you get with the center part? So you can see how you get a different look from this eye. You see how that halo, it lightens my eye, it opens my eye. So it really depends on what you're in the mood for, and you can alternate days. You can decide you like one look more for an evening look. But honestly, I go back and forth between these techniques. And just because you're learning these techniques with this particular palette, you can apply the same concepts to other colored palettes as I'm talking you through here, okay? So now, blending. Now that we've got everything down on the eye. And again, this is just going to be a light, fluffy blending of the whole eye. And then like we did before, now this is where we can do any touch-ups, an additional color if we feel like we need it. Just going to touch up my halo part. And again, I always like to finish with my lightest color, going back up under my brow, down the inner part of my eye to the inner corner. Okay? And again, you can see how that lifts those brows up by doing that. So we have our area that we built for our halo in the center. Okay? And now we're ready for some eyeliner on this eye as well. So again, I have my black liner pencil. And again, you could use your pencil on the bottom, or you can use your palette to line the bottom of your eye. And with this being a smoky eye, by using that shadow to line your eye, it's going to give it a smokier, deeper look to it. So I'm using my darkest brown color in the palette with my liner brush, and I'm just going to go ahead and line the bottom part. Again, about a little over midway in. And I'm going to take my Optimistic, my lightest shade, and I'm going to do the inner corner of my eye out towards that, where that liner is. Again, look at how that just kind of brightens that inner part. Grab my mirror here. Just touch in my crease brush just to bring it together. And there you have a halo smoky eye to complete our second look. So again, we started highlighting under our brow with the Optimistic. Then we used the Astute as a transition shade. Then we used the dark brown on the inner part of the eye, outer part, and across the crease. And then used the Optimistic in the center area to create that halo smoky eye. And now we're ready for some mascara on this side as well. Again, I'm going to go down the top part of my lashes as well. Let that dry a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and do the second coat. Now when you have a neutral eye, you have the opportunity with your lipsticks to, with a neutral eye, you can really put some color on your lips if you want to. Or if you prefer to play it safe and do a nude lip, you can as well. So to show you the difference, I'm going to do one side of my lips with a nude color called Stellar, and I'm going to do the other side of my lips with this color called Spontaneous. Okay. I have here a lip brush to use for my application, but you can use the applicator in your lipstick as well. But if you're using your applicator, you want to make sure you're wiping excess off, because it really does not take much of this splash liquid lipstick to apply to your lips, and the less you apply and the better you get it applied into your lip, the longer it lasts, rather than using more. So I'm going to use my brush to get a little bit of the lipstick on here. So this is where, if you were wanting to wear a beautiful red lip because you have a neutral eye, with either of these looks, this is the perfect opportunity to go bold with your lips. If you feel more comfortable and you're going to work, or it's every day, you're running groceries, getting the groceries and that, and you feel like you prefer a nude lip, you could do that as well. So during the day you might wear a nude lip, and you might decide to go out in the evening, that's when you're going to go with the color. It is really up to you. So I'm just cleaning my lip brush off so that now we can put color on the other side. Look at this pretty color. So again, I'm going to put a little bit on my brush. There you can see, I know it looks a little funny having two sides, but here you can see the difference between color on your lips with your neutral eye or a nude lip. You get to decide how you like to play with your colors. So thank you for joining me for this tutorial with our two different eye looks with our neutral palette. And please let us know if you have any questions at all, and we are happy to help you. Thanks for joining. Bye.